My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family, I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired. Because of Go Cloud Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the GloCloud team.
All right. Welcome everybody to another Head in the Clouds from us at Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer here at Go Cloud Careers, and we're here for another exciting show. You may notice that Mike Gibbs, our founder, is not here with us. That's because he is on a forced vacation for his birthday. He does not normally like to do that, but he is doing that right now. So with that in mind, we are here with Mark Milovanovich, our Chief Technology Officer, Alonzo Coleman, our Chief Marketing Officer, and Dr. Cooper Johnson and Dr. Jamie Long, professors of management from the University of Tennessee at Martin. So we are glad that all of you are here. We're going to be talking about soft skills today. We're going to be talking about what part soft skills play in having a successful tech career. How you can leverage those soft skills to get promoted in tech or to advance your career in one way or another, or just make your day-to-day life easier in your tech career with those soft skills. So that's why we've got Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long here to talk with us. Before we get started, we've got some exciting news from one of our guests here, Dr. Long. And for those of you that don't know, Dr. Long and Dr. Johnson, they actually They actually teach within our programs at Go Cloud Careers as well as their full-time careers as professors at the University of Tennessee at Martin. But at the beginning of this semester, Dr. Long was promoted to the chair of the Department of Management and something. I don't know. Dr. Long, what's the full name of that department?
Yeah, the full name of the department is the Department of Management, Marketing, and Information Systems.
All right. Well, let's get, if you will, give us a little chat in the chat box there to congratulate Dr. Long on that promotion. We're very excited for her on that. So congratulations for that, Dr. Long. I know that was I know what the education system is like. I know how long of a process that was. So that's not something that happened over the course of a week or two. No. So if you're in the chat box and you're sitting there thinking, man, I've been going through this interview process and it's 3 or 4 weeks long, just be glad that you're not in higher education, because that process is at least 6 months long. So let's hear for Dr. Johnson there or Dr. Long there in the chat box. But before we get started, now that we've congratulated Dr. Long, actually, you know what? Let me see. Do I have any? I got. Let's see. No, I don't have any good music over here. Let's see. Does this work? Oh, the computer's taking a while. No, that's not any fun. I was hoping I might have some fun music over here for that. But anyway, before we get into the topic of today, there's a few things that I want to tell you about. I know you're used to Mike telling you about things, but that's my role today. So the first thing that I want to tell everybody about is that we've got a birthday discount going on for Mike. We've got a 50% off birthday discount on all of our live training programs with the code BIRTHDAY. Pretty simple. Birthday. Put that in at checkout and you get 50% off of all of our live training programs, whether you're doing the full payment plans, or whatever it might be. That is Mike's birthday gift to all of you. So take advantage of that. Looks like Tyrone's got that put over there in the chat box. It should also be in our description too. If it's not, it will be. So that is a 50% off birthday discount with code BIRTHDAY for all of our live training programs. Take advantage of that. It is over at the end of the month. So 29th, 30th, so 3.5 more days of that discount. Now, the next thing that I want to tell everybody about is we have a completely free Azure Solutions Architect Expert Bootcamp. I think I got that right. I never can remember these things. If I can't remember the name of a college department, I sure as heck can't remember the name of a certification. But we've got a free Azure Bootcamp coming up in a week and a half, starting Monday, September 9th. Sign up for that. It's completely free. If you've taken advantage of any of our boot camps before, you know what to expect. The last time we did an Azure boot camp was 2 years ago. So we have put a lot into updating it. Got over 20 architects that have provided input and feedback and review and all the good stuff to make sure that this boot camp is what it needs to be. So make sure to register for that. Share that with anyone else that you think might be interested. And yeah, you can find that link there in the chat box as well. So before we get started, let's go around the table here and see if anybody's got any opening words, I guess we could say. We'll start with Mark here, and then we'll go around clockwise to Dr. Johnson, Alonzo, and we'll finish on the newly promoted chair, Dr. Long.
I must have gotten picked on because I'm probably the first next to you, right?
Well, on my side, it's clockwise. You're at 12 o'clock, so
Yep.
That's how this goes.
So do I have something to say? Definitely don't pick on people randomly. Make them feel uncomfortable in the moment. But in any case, what I do have in mind is I'm personally curious to hear what Dr. Johnson as well as Dr. Long have to say. I know what Alonzo is going to say is going to be quite informative. And to get somebody else's perspective, especially those that are not necessarily 100% within a tech profession, is what I think is the exciting part, because what I believe we're going to get out is, because it's not rehearsed, I'm not 100% sure what everybody's going to say, but I'm hoping to see how transcendent, irregardless of the domain you're in, organization you work with, how interpersonal skills actually help you develop and exceed your wildest expectations when it comes to your career development and your growth. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and I hope everybody's excited to hear the different perspectives on this matter as well.
All right, so we'll go with Dr. Johnson next. There we go.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's good to be back again. We've been working with GoCloud for a couple of years now. I am not a tech weenie. If you've been anywhere near me at all, you understand that my solution, anything technology, is turn it off, turn it on 2 or 3 times. And if it doesn't work, then you call for help. So, but GoCloud reached out to Jamie and I to talk about soft skills, and that's pretty much our forte. And I'm looking forward to having a chat with you. And just to give you a little background, we have done entire presentations on some of these topics, the soft skill topics. So welcome, and I hope you will be able to take something useful away from our conversation today. And this is the type that I really like, where everybody just jumps in, talks, and I don't have to sound like a professor.
I don't think we ever have to worry about you sounding like a professor, Dr. Johnson.
Well, there you go.
All right, so Alonzo.
Well, it's always a treat to get the doctors back in. We don't have to, get in a realm where Dr. Johnson is going to call anyone a tech weenie, be able to really get down and drill down into really helping people to communicate how to present their best selves and how to sell their ideas, how to sell their competency in a myriad of different environments. So, it's always good getting the gang back together and showcasing everything and helping everybody along the way. What about you, Dr. Long?
Well, first of all, I want to say I look like a Smurf, and I'm just going to call this my GoCloud career makeup. Little blue action going on. I'm really excited to be here today, and thank you all for the congratulations. I do want to point out that I am now Dr. Johnson's boss. So he answers to me.
Oh boy.
So the tides have turned at this point. As far as today and what we're going to talk about, I'm really excited also about hearing what everybody has to say. It's going to be a great in thinking about what it is that is going to help you be successful and what soft skills are out there that can really propel you in a direction that's going to result in you reaching your goals. I think that the tech field has a very strong aspect of making sure that you can do what the physical aspects of the job are, making sure that the programs are working and things like that. So I think that the fact that you have this opportunity to talk about soft skills, it'll bridge that point where you can excel into the management ranks and above. And it really does have an impact on that success. And you're kind of breaking through a ceiling that have the skills to be able to work with other people. And ultimately, soft skills is being able to work around other people and being able to do that in an environment that puts you in a good light with others. So I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody has to say.
Whoa! Everybody got moved around there when I put you back. All right, let's do this.
I'm not
there
first. Alonzo is awesome.
Yeah. So just for clarity's sake, so Dr. Johnson, or I guess I'll ask Dr. Long. Dr. Long, how many years was Dr. Johnson your boss combined? Oh, we lost him. Dr. Long, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah. So how many years combined would you say that Dr. Johnson was your boss?
Oh, dear. 9 years. It was 9 years.
And now you're in charge. All right.
And now I'm in charge.
Okay.
Did you hear it? It started with, oh boy, there's stories to tell here.
Oh, there are many stories to tell of Dr. Johnson's 9 years as Dr. Long's boss. So now I'm sure she's going to make up for that. She'll probably make up for that in 9 months. But anyway, So I figured let's start this off in a fun way. Well, actually, let's start this off in an academic way. Dr. Johnson, we'll start with you, and then we'll go with Dr. Long. If you had to give without opening the dictionary, what are soft skills?
In my opinion, soft skills, or I can give you some examples, but they're anything that, I recognize the fact that you have technology skills. I recognize the fact that some people have mathematical skills and those types of things. But soft skills are items such as leadership, communication, listening, hearing, goal setting, being able to communicate, developing networks, those types of things. I recognize the fact that a lot of people have technical skills and that they can sit behind, like I used to with my dad. He was an engineer, and we would always say, put him in a back room because he could do the math, but he couldn't communicate with the customer because he had absolutely no concept of how to do that. And, it's one thing to be able to develop a product, develop a concept, but it's another thing to sell it. And Alonzo should be familiar with that, given marketing, because as Dr. Johnson is so fond of saying, the definition of marketing is a license to lie, but sell and promote. But I got a marketing degree too, Lonzo, so I can say that. But you need to be able to take what you develop, what you and your team develops, and you need to be able to communicate that to your prospective customers. If you can be the best that you are in your field, but if you can't communicate and sell what you have, you will fail miserably. So I say soft skills are taking that step above, the technical skills. And now I will say this, I fully believe and I firmly believe that not everyone's going to be able to be a leader. Not everyone is going to be able to rise to that occasion. That there's also always going to be what I call the worker bees that you put in the closets in the back room to develop the products and so forth. But you as a leader, which I don't know how Jamie feels, but when I teach my students, our degree is called management, and I start off with, I don't want you to be a manager. I want to train you and teach you to be a leader at some point. So there's a distinct difference between a leader and a manager, and I think those soft skills come into play to help do that and develop that. Jamie, what you might want to add something to that.
Yeah, Dr. Long, what would you add to that?
Well, the original question was, how do you define soft skills? And really, it comes down to being able to interact with other people, being able to gain a confidence about yourself, and being able to put yourself out there in a way that's going to showcase your strengths and build upon your weaknesses. So a lot of the soft skills that we talk about is really just the benefit of getting along with others and helping others on your journey and helping them on their journey and seeing what you can do to unite and build together. It is funny in the classroom that students are like, I hate group projects. Group projects are terrible. And I'm like, life is right. You are projects. Every single job you hold, every single relationship you're in, every single, family member you interact, it's all a group project. You're going to be there. So if you can develop those soft skills, you will find projects, whether it's in life or at work or whatever you're doing, it becomes easier when you can help others and yourself to figure out how to get along and how to have that united front. It just makes life easier.
All right. Now, you, Dr. Johnson, you said something about worker bees, etc. But I want to go back to you talking about your dad being the engineer that you stuck back in the office so that he didn't interact with anybody. What type of difference would it have made if he or the worker bees had soft skills? They had the ability to relate and communicate with people. What type of difference would that have made for them in their roles?
Well, I will speak from the standpoint, first of all, from the entire business. It would have made a tremendous amount of difference to increase productivity, to increase profit, and that bottom line and so forth. My dad and the people like him, like I said, they could develop the product, but they couldn't communicate with the folks. They couldn't answer the questions. They couldn't bring it down to a level. They wanted to talk way up high, use all those buzzwords that those engineers and folks like to use, but they couldn't explain to the customer, what was needed and what they had done, and they couldn't communicate. That was my job. I would sit there and talk with the customer and think about the time that was wasted, me talking with a potential customer. Then I had to turn around and go talk to folks like my dad, then turn around and go back. I was the middleman. It was a waste of time, a colossal waste of time. And as much as we tried to help him develop those skills, he just either refused to do it, because he did have the ability to do it. He just refused to do it. So it would have increased productivity, the bottom line. It would have cut out a lot of wasted time, which, as we all know, time is money.
Yep, absolutely. Mark, you got any insights there? I feel like you got you got a lot of insights around that topic.
The engineer inside of me is screaming, "Don't let them know that you ever did engineering." But I've definitely been in situations such as Dr. Johnson was describing, and that's when you pose the question. I fully agree with what Dr. Long said, that it helps you get along with people. That's really the gist of it. That's what these interpersonal soft skills do. But something else that came to my mind is, and I feel because of how disconnected this type of skill set is, that they're special abilities, like a collection of special abilities that are not necessarily easy to measure. How do you measure if somebody's a good communicator? Because someone might be your cup of tea, other people might not be your cup of tea. Somebody might be, in your opinion, a good leader. For others, they might be a dictator. So it's very difficult to measure them. And that's why I call them special ability, or collection of special abilities that, if properly applied and developed, might help you get along with other people, depending on who you work with or who you have to interact with. But definitely also there's also compromise. Let's put it that way. There's also compromise, like in any relationship, that is associated with using these different special, unmeasurable abilities, especially when you're dealing with people that are very technical. I might as well add that.
So you mean the ability to negotiate? Is that what you're saying there?
Well, it depends what relationship we're talking about. That's why I use the term compromise, because sometimes that's all you can do to keep the peace. Sometimes you just have to let somebody else take the lead if that's the case, or go with their opinion, with their supposed facts. But negotiation, okay, I would say negotiation is on the cusp of something that's a critical business skill, and also a very special and rare ability that people have that you can say are part of your interpersonal skills.
Alonso, you got any thoughts to add in here before I poke another question at Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long?
Sure. Yeah, I think, the traditional XY management style, it's far more dimensional than that. So people have to ask themselves, do they want to be a manager that leads, or want to be a leader that manages? So if you have the ability to communicate valuable information to C-suite, or you're able to do it to your child, being able to strategically share the components of what you want to communicate in a way that they can understand, will create more cohesion and create more understanding for the team than, Dr. Johnson had mentioned. It's like, okay, I got to play liaison. I got to talk to the C-suite, tell them what they want, then talk to the engineers and become a walking filtration unit to help them understand what's going on. If we're able to start sharing and offering, okay, well, I'm an engineer, I'm more technical, I got tons of buzzwords for you that you don't care about and don't want to hear. How can I effectively communicate with you? Same things with C-suite. They got a vision, they got costs, they got marketing, they got a lot of facets that they need to put into play with each strategic move. How can I share that with the engineers? And being able to find a way, architects, being able to do that, but being able to kind of take a little bit of how you communicate from the technological over to the other side of the spectrum for more business, people related communication. That's going to go a long way. And there's lots of things that we can do in the, in between that to make it happen.
All right. Thank you. Now, so I've got a fun question that I want to get to eventually, but I won't get to it just yet. So I'd like to ask Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long, and we'll start with Dr. Long this time. And I'd like it, this may be the same for people that are already leaders and for people that aspire to be leaders. But I wanted to try and look at it from the perspective of that worker bee that's aspiring to become a leader, that wants to make that transition into the management or the leader or the communicator, the problem solver, whatever it might be. They want to move up. What would you say up to 5 of the most important soft skills are for someone that's wanting to become that leader or that higher level employee?
When you're looking at somebody that's trying to work their way up, or somebody who's in maybe a lower rank and they want to work their way to a higher rank in that management role and that leadership role in the organization, there's the standards that we all kind of talk about that you'll hear more frequently, like communication and leadership and things of that nature. But there's certain skills that set certain people apart that really make them shine and go, oh, that's really what we were looking for. And they didn't have an idea of it until it presented itself in front of them. So I would say the ability to make decisions. Whenever you get, assigned a task and you have to kind of you can use that to showcase your skills. And decision making is one of those that a managerial rank or a leader has to be able to do and do well. So you want to be able to showcase your skills at a lower level. And it really is a way to grab the attention of those above you that have the power to promote you. So something like that, I would say to start off is that decision making, the ability to make decisions, to be able to make quality decisions that have an impact in a positive light. That really, I think, would be up there. I would say also your ability to network, and I would expand on networking because we talk about networking quite a bit, to say office politics. So you don't just need to network on the grand scale of, everybody you know and who could help you and who you can help, but just being able to get along with your colleagues and being able to help facilitate the job getting done through office politics. And that's really just relationships and how you work on those and understanding what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what you need to do, what you need to know, aspects of office politics. Emotional intelligence. Nobody wants the manager that can't hold their temper or that can't understand and have empathy for others. So you want somebody in that role, and so you need to be able to demonstrate it at a lower level, like when you are told to do something you don't want to do it, how you react to that, how you are put into a team to get a job done and you don't necessarily get along with all the team members. How do you react to that? And all of that's going to show your emotional intelligence. It's a way of showing maturity. It's a way of showing your capability, skills, and getting along with others, and how you can handle the stress that comes with higher level roles as well. I would say understanding the difference between following policy and following the loopholes within the policy is critical. Adhering to policy is important. There's policy, so follower is important, but certain situations, and you need to be able to identify what those situations are. When do you know there, but you find the loopholes and you work around them to solve the problem that's there, and therefore being able to do that and showcase your ability to stay within the rules, but at the same time work out the issues that you have. It's a critical aspect of working with others, working within the guidelines you're given. It's going to help you be seen as somebody, oh, okay, this one's not only able to make decisions and problem solve, they can help us stay within the guidelines and push forward in a way that's going to help us accomplish our goals. The last one, the fifth one on that one that I would say is just conflict resolution. Being able to get along with others even when they don't get along with each other. Being able to help people resolve their differences. Understanding, cut loose when things aren't just going to work, and understanding that you're going to have different personalities. You're going to have a variety of people and expertise that you work with. I mean, I work in an environment where just about everybody has either a PhD or some kind of doctorate. So it kind of washes out the ego in that sense because everybody's got the same degree level. So you can't say I'm smarter than you. It's one of those, well, we all have that, and it doesn't really work out there. So the ego check really comes in fast when you're in higher education. Everybody's like, yeah, you're not the smartest one in the room. We're all smart in this room. There's conflicts because everybody then at that point, well, I can't tell them that I'm the expert in this area, and that's therefore it would be, I'm smarter than you. You have to figure out a different way. So there's just conflicts in general with what you want to say, what you want to get done, and how you're going to get that done, and how do you go about doing all that? So, I'd say in addition to those that we traditionally talk about and we've emphasized, and, Cooper and I have done several trainings on those, I would add these to it. These are the ones that I would say would help put you above and beyond others that can do the basic skills. These are the ones that would say, okay, so you're ready for a management rank. You're ready for those responsibilities. You can handle them. And then we're going to put our faith in you to move forward.
I like your number 4. It's a pretty difficult one to try and highlight, though. I'm sitting here imagining, how am I going to tell in an interview that I'm good at following the rules, but also finding the loopholes and using those loopholes to my advantage without breaking the rules?
You also, you can do that is just to say that you're going to stay within the rules, but you also are going to be honor and believe in your people and work with them to accomplish what they need done. But it's ways of doing it. Most of the time when we're doing loopholes, it's because some idiot put in a policy that doesn't really work. And everybody knows it doesn't work. And so now we're like, okay, so what are we going to do about it? And, we can't break policy. So we all get creative in the way that we do that. So, the word creative is usually how you emphasize I can find loopholes in that policy.
You got to massage the rules sometimes.
A little bit.
Yeah,
People
people ask me
like a blink, right? I follow the rules.
Yeah. People ask me what I do, and I just say I make things happen, and I leave it at that. Like I don't give any further context. It's like I just make things happen. So,
you have diplomatic immunity for that one, then.
So, Dr. Johnson, same question for you. What would your list be of those skill sets that people would want to attain and implement and practice and use to their advantage?
Well, some of mine are going to be some of the more traditional ones because I think the ones that I come up with can work whether you're in the C-suite or whether you're the new kid on the block that's just walked in the door. The first one that I've always believed in my entire career is that communication is the most important skill that any individual must have. If you cannot successfully and effectively communicate, you will not succeed, or you will hit a level of which you will go no further. Now, part of that communication, that was number 1. Number 2 is part of communication is the ability to listen. Too many times we like to run our mouth. Too many times we already make our minds up. We need to develop the ability to listen to what people are saying. There is a difference between listening and hearing, okay? It's critical that you learn to listen. Some of you have been around when I did my little math test. I did it in class yesterday. I think Jamie failed it when she took it. I don't know whether she did or not. But I would ask my kids, I would say, okay, listen to this. I'm going to give you a 4th grade math test. You take 30, divide it by half, and add 10. And all my students come up 25, 25, 25. 30 divided by half is 60. Invert and multiply. When I use the word invert, I had to get the dictionary out and try to figure out how to tell them what that was. I used one of those big words. So they didn't listen. They heard something, but they didn't listen. So I think listening is critical, folks. I don't care what level you are in an organization, you need to learn to listen. Another one I think Jamie touched on is developing relationships. And I'm talking relationships inside the organization and external to the organization. You might throw in the word networking. Networking is very important. You know, all of us are not experts. All of us need help at some particular point in time in our careers. And if we're going to be successful in our organizations, we need to develop the appropriate relationships. Now, I am not by any means saying that you've got to be friends and best friends with everybody in an organization. What I am saying is this, and it tags on to Jamie. You must be professional at all times. You don't have to like everybody, but by goodness, you can be professional. And if there's one thing I hope Jamie took away when she did have those 9 years under me, was that, you know, instill and expect and demand professionalism. You know, you will be professional. If not, then I would encourage you to take your skills and abilities and go somewhere else and try to use them somewhere else. I fully believe time management is very critical. As you well know, regardless of where you are in the organization, that you're going to have things dumped on you at all times. People are going to come in, like my boss now comes in all the time, sends me all these emails. I think I got 3 or 4 today emails. But you know, you've got to manage your time. You got to break these things down into where you can accomplish certain things. You got to prioritize what's important. For example, some of the emails that I received from my new boss requires me to work with other people. So now I've got to bring in them, and we got to manage our time together, you know, and figure those things out. Goal setting, I think, is critical also. I firmly believe in what I refer to as SMART goals. Those are goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic by all means, and timely. So you take those big goals. You know, your boss comes in and they hand you a big task to do. You've got to be able to break that thing down, break it down into parts where you can approach this thing. If not, you're just going to give up. You're going to look at it and say, I can't do this. Well, break it down. Reach out to some of those people you developed relationships with. I do it all the time. You know, I realize that I can't do everything by myself. For example, in our little world in academia, you know, they require us to do research and publish in peer-reviewed journals. You know, the best way to be successful is get a research team. Don't do it all by yourself. You do it all by yourself, you don't have, you know, Jamie's on, there's 3 people on my research team, or our research team. That's just Jamie's research team, really, because we put the smart girl in charge. But, you know, there's 3 people, and we sit down and we know our strengths, and we divide these things up. And then we have goals and timeframes, and we're constantly asking each other, how's it coming? How's it going? You know, when I was working on my dissertation, I had 2 old geezers that would come down once a week. Tell me what you did this week. And those old men were mean, worse than I ever been. And I better have an answer. Well, they got me out in 9 months. From the day I proposed to the day I defended, I was done. Because I got tired of listening to them. So let me go back over them again. Communication, listening, developing relationships or networking, time management skills, and goal setting. Okay? And always understand that you've got to be flexible. All right. The ability to be flexible, the ability to develop contingency plans. If one thing doesn't work, you need to have something in your back pocket that you can fall back on and move on to another way of doing something. So those are mine, Chris.
All right. So Alonzo or Mark, do you guys want to add anything into the list they just shared?
I got a couple of thoughts that I could throw in the hat with the doctors. There's Dr. Long touched on empathy, having an understanding. I think let me start first. Before we have effective communication, it'll be good to understand what the culture is. No matter how we communicate, if it's not in a way that the overall environment can value, understand, receive, and so forth, it might just be throwing a rock against the wall. It will not penetrate. You're not going to get far ahead by communicating in a style that you value. Understand what the team, the organization values, and be able to provide insights based off of what they can understand, what they can quantify, qualify, and consider soft values. Be empathetic with your team. Understand that how you feel today may not be how they feel on the same day. Maybe there might be some things that they're going through that they haven't communicated, but the effectiveness of their work and their performance may be the ambassador to their emotions. So try to communicate and share and provide a open door policy so that they can be comfortable. Also think about how there's nonverbals. There's never an assumption that what comes out your mouth is the only way that you communicate. So I may sit here with my arms folded with a bad look on my face that provides a negative outlook for the team. What's wrong with Alonzo? Why is he acting like this? He's not being a team player. He's off on his own. Or if someone does something that does not meet the expectations of the team, short of their goals, and I don't say anything, but I throw my hands up in the air, take a big sigh, and walk away, that says far more negatively than what I could say then, okay, we missed our mark. What happened? How can we move forward? What are the things that we can learn from and be able to say everyone makes mistakes? Let's move forward as a team. Let's not isolate anyone and share that knowledge so that moving forward in lessons learned in the end of a project or project manager, program management, that this is something that other people can learn from as well. So these are a few things that I think about off the top of my head without overlapping all these nuggets that Dr. Long and Dr. Johnson added. What about you, Mark?
Well, number one, I learned something very important just a few minutes ago, and that is that you really should learn what type of communication style your team members prefer. Sometimes 4 emails are just not acceptable. That might feel overwhelming to some, while others might prefer it. But joking aside, that is, I think, part of leadership is to know what the best way of communicating is for your team members, for your people. I think that is part of it. And the same goes the other way. The team members also should know how to communicate with the leadership as well. Some people in leadership position, they don't like to have to read essays, just want to get to a point. Others prefer that you give them a phone call. Others maybe a quick text. So communication style definitely is on the top of the list. But when it comes to leadership, something that always stuck with me is this idea of servitude. Being a leader to me always felt like it was a role where you serve others. And that's why the idea of emotional intelligence always was at the top of my list, to be able to not just manage and control your own emotions on how you feel, but to be able to take that and be able to galvanize the groups, the teams that you have, to be able to motivate them, to inspire them, because you also have to sell them on your vision, right? So selling is going to be part of it. But you can't do that if you think that you're better or you always set yourself above the others. You have to have that attitude that you're willing to wash their feet because that's what you expect them to do. So that is part of what I expect. And I think what also comes of this idea of being a servant to the rest of the team is it allows you to take the perspective of the people that you work with, the people that you interact with, understand their perceptions, be able to understand what is driving them, what is triggering them, so that you can perhaps even resolve conflicts. It's going to be part of this emotional intelligence, be able to read the temperature, be able to adjust to that, this adaptability. And I believe it's also very important in building relationships. I don't think anyone wants to be associated or associate themselves with somebody that's very centric to themselves, is egocentric in that way. So being able to come from a position of what many might consider weakness is actually a position of strength, because you're in there with your people and you're there to build them up. Because how can you ever have a strong team if you're not willing to build them up? Give them the energy, give them the motivation, help them understand your vision, your thoughts, imprint that on them. So that's how I look at a form of what is a critical skill when it comes to trying to get to a leadership position, and then once you're there, to be able to attain that. And then, of course, there's the other ones, right? We talked about being able to be a strategic thinker. Communication could be both verbal and written. I would definitely say decision-making is on the top of the list. So there's these many things. But for me, definitely emotional intelligence, keeping that servitude mindset in there. And I'm not talking slavery. I'm talking about that you're willing to work support your team members for their benefit and the benefit of the organization or the relationship.
Right. Anybody want to add any last words before I pivot to some of the questions in the chat box?
I'd like to follow up on what Alonzo said on making sure you understand the culture that you're coming into. If you're new to that, it's absolutely critical. If you're new to the team, getting to know kind of how things work and what people expect. You don't have the history knowledge, so you have to kind of work with what you have, which means you have to be open to what other people have to say, and then just kind of observe what's going on around you. Being open to, opening your eyes and your ears and making sure that you're kind of being aware of what others have going on. It's going to kind of clear the way for you. If you find out just through observation, doing stuff without having to go through the problems of making the mistake first, it's really going to be helpful. So yes, know that culture, know how the interactions work within that organization and within that team. It's going to really help you out.
All right. So I wanted to go to a couple of the things here in the chat box, and then we'll get back to the conversation. So I'm going to try and interpret a little bit if necessary. So Arif asked, the hierarchy also affects your confidence when you want to speak. Many organizations have a system to systematically keep people in their place and no growth path. How can we then use our skills? I'd like to start this one off. Yes, companies have hierarchies in place. Otherwise, they wouldn't function. So with that being said, that's actually the basis behind this question is actually the reason and the way that I asked Dr. Long about the skills that she thought were important for those people that are wanting to make that move. They're wanting to make that change. Even if there is a hierarchy in place, and even if it is meant to keep people in place, if you highlight, let me see, your ability, your decision-making capabilities, your ability to navigate office politics, the ability to show your emotional intelligence, your ability to follow policy and follow loopholes. I love it. I still love that. Your ability to conflict resolution. And then you tie that with what Dr. Johnson said about the listening and the communication and the time management and the goal setting. If you're doing all those things, there's no way that you're just going to stay in place if your goal is to move up. Now, maybe you're not able to move up where you're at. That's the reason people change companies. Like, that's nothing wrong with that if you're not able to move up where you're at. But if you develop these skills and you hone these skills, and you showcase them, that the key is showcasing them, not just using them, but using them in a way where you showcase yourself. We talk about building your brand. Well, part of building your brand is actually doing whatever you're supposed to be doing. And in this case, highlighting all these showcasing these skill sets. And so that's my 2 cents here. If you're trying to navigate a company that may have a strict hierarchy, if you're showcasing your capabilities and you actually have these capabilities and you actually have these skills, then you're not going to stay in that place that you're trying to get out of very long. Now, getting out of that place might mean leaving that company. So that's my 2 cents. I'd like to hear what the rest of the round tables has to say there.
Well, definitely, many organizations have a system to systematically keep people in their place and no growth path. So as you grow, sooner or later, unstoppable force, immovable object, something is got to give. And given the space that Arif, of course, I'm assuming that you have a career trajectory or you are interested in one. you're going to want to probably reconsider that organization, that department, or whatever. But what you continually do is understand that culture, how to continually grow without rocking the boat, so that no negativity ensues. But sooner or later, there's going to be some considerations that you may want to find an organization that better aligns with your trajectory, how you communicate, and how it's synergistic with their particular culture. Someone had mentioned in the chat that I found pretty interesting is that I've been told as an analyst not to sound like a consultant, is because they have things they want you to do, but you have to keep in mind, this is where I am, but what I'm training to do is going to be towards the goals that I'm looking for. And you need an environment that is willing to cultivate you as a resource that not only they want to retain, but understanding that you have strengths that they can benefit from, and you need to be in an area that does so.
Yeah, and I'll put it this way as well. I agree with everything that Chris and Alonzo said. The world in general is designed to keep us subjugated. And we as human beings have a tendency to, in some way or form or fashion, we'd like to dominate one another. Just 1 second, guys. I think my video froze. Okay. So from that perspective, though, just because you are what appears to have a restriction around your growth, how you can express that growth, I don't personally believe that should limit how you interact and how you treat other people. So if you want to be kind to others, you should be able to be kind to others. As we mentioned, this idea of servitude. If you want to be a good leader acknowledges others. They don't lord over others. So if you want to be able to draw the best out of your team, either if you want to be confident or spike their confidence, you should also treat them in a respectable manner. Now, if you can't do that because of some hierarchy, let me ask you this. Would it prevent you from acting that way to your coworker? Would you have to be unkind to them, push them down, make them feel inferior to you? I don't believe so. But in the end, if the entire culture of the entity or the organization where you're at is like that, then you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing the company a disservice, because you're not a good fit for them and they're not a good fit for you. There's going to be many other organizations out there that are going to align with your sense of leadership style, with your sense of skill level that you can join, that are going to allow you to express yourself in a respectable and confident manner and be able also to be upbuilding to others. So I definitely don't think that any type of societal, how would we put this, restriction or so forth governs how you can use your interpersonal skills. That's just my personal opinion, of course.
Let me just hop in here and say, I think everything starts at the top with the leadership. Okay, the top people in the organization. Personally, and I'll speak from my personal experiences and so forth, when I served as the chair, until I got smart and got out of that, but when I served as the chair of departments, when I would hire somebody, I would bring them on board, and I think Jamie can attest to this. And when I would bring them on board, after we had the conversations about what's expected and that type of stuff, I would tell them, I said, look, there's going to come a time when it's time for you to move on, because we know how that triangle works, that pyramid works. There's only so much room at the top. And I said, when that time comes, I encourage you to come to me and tell me you're going to have other opportunities. I will do everything I can to help you. I'll make calls. I'll write letters, because I'm not here to hold you back. I'm here to develop the next generation of a leader. And I tried to make that known throughout the department in which I was in charge of. I always encouraged them. I had an open door policy, and I hope and I try to live up to that. You have a problem, come tell me. Don't ever not come tell me about a problem. I can't help you. If you mess up, come see me. We'll fix it. We'll deal with it. Then we will use that as a learning experience, is the way I looked at it. So I agree, but I really believe it starts at the top. I also agree with what some of the others have said, that if it comes to a point where you realize that this is not the place for you, that you do not have the opportunities that others may have. There's nothing wrong with moving on. Okay. Matter of fact, I would get worried about those that don't. And I would encourage them. I have people, some people I wish would come to me and say, I got a new job. I'd help them pack and move out the door tomorrow. And no, Dr. Long, you're not going to help me pack and move out tomorrow. Not yet. But, seriously, folks, it all starts with leadership. You've got to have the appropriate leadership. Okay. And I don't care how high in an organization you go, those that are around you, they're either going to support you or they're not. And if you find a leader that's not being supported, you will see that leader will not last long. They will fail. They have got to have the support of the folks from which they are in charge of. So again, foster those relationships, be open, help them, be kind to them. I saw in one of the chat marks said, being kind is okay. It is not a weakness. Matter of fact, I see that as a strength. I believe empathy and sympathy are both strengths. So, be there for them. And you will notice, you will build that loyalty. They will become loyal to you. And they will do just about anything they can for you. So, Jamie, I'll let you add to it.
Politics, the people that are making the decision about who's moving up in the organization are above you. So you need to figure out how to build relationships with them, because they need to be able to see you as a member of their team in order to say, oh yeah, that's the person I want to join this team. So in opportunities, say every day, but if you get invited to the company picnic and you get an opportunity to just go say hi. Put yourself out there, show a nice personality that people get along with. They want to be there, show that you can do the job. But that office politics is a way for you to build that relationship and show them you want me. I'm the person that you're going to choose. The ones who get selected for those opportunities, even when they're limited, are the ones that they already have some degree of confidence will join their team and they will be easy to work with. They already have. They will see them as not competitive against what they're trying to accomplish, but they're on the team. So use those office politics to your advantage. It's a way for you to go ahead and showcase yourself as a person that they want. And it has happened before, and it's not unreasonable to say that they might find a position for you that does not currently exist if they really want you that bad. And those opportunities, when they come available, you snatch them up. If you're not ready for them, then they're going to pass you by. So put yourself out there, show them that you have those skills, that you have that ability, but getting along with others. People don't want to work with people that are, and the more they just want a group that gets along with each other. There's more cohesion in those management ranks than there are in the lower ranks. They understand the need to work around each other. And since they have the power and authority to choose who's on their team, they're very selective in that. So use those office politics, become the politician that you want to see out there, become the person that you want to see, but the personality that showcases your strengths. And they want to know that you're somebody that can do the job, obviously, but getting along with others, making hard decisions. There's ways for you to do that. So there's a opportunity that you know that you want to move forward. And even let's say that opportunity doesn't come, but you've already developed those relationships with those people in a higher rank. If you do decide to leave the company, you do decide to take advantage of another opportunity, and you can get one of them to write you a letter of recommendation that says, hey, if we had an opportunity and we had something here, we would definitely keep this person on board. But since we can't, you would have a great person if you hired this one. I mean, it speaks volumes to say that somebody within the ranks of management would put their endorsement behind you and say, this is a really great selection. And you can do that through office politics, just proving yourself to be a good team member.
All right. So before I get to the next one, I want to do a quick survey here of the five of us. And I don't want to get into any specifics here. I'd like you to raise your hand or give me a thumbs up, whatever. Your screen might be limited. I don't know. give me some type of indication. Have you moved on from a job because of no further advancement opportunities where you were at any time in your career? All right. Even the higher ed people say that. Now, I don't know what they're talking about in their higher ed because I know both of them worked in corporate or in private business before. But so you got 5 out of 5 just said we moved on because that hierarchy, like the pyramid, literally gets smaller the farther up you get. So there's less opportunity. You might have to look elsewhere for that opportunity. It's okay to look elsewhere. You should still develop those skill sets that we're talking about and showcase those skill sets because, like Dr. Long just said, you're going to ask some of these people, whether they're your superior, your subordinate, your colleague, to be a reference for you, to write something for you, to be something of support to you. How can they support it if you haven't showcased your abilities? So make sure you're showcasing those things, whether you're going to move on in that organization or if you're going to move on outside the organization. It's perfectly fine to move on. And I think a lot of people, based on a lot of the conversations that I have with people, I think a lot of people are scared of that, or they don't think it's okay to move on or leave and go somewhere. It's perfectly fine to do that. You got to do what's best for you. Now, the next question that I'm going to put up, I'm gonna phrase it a little bit differently. I'm gonna read the broad question. So on the balance, what proportion will you assign to technical versus soft skills for a potential leader in the tech industry? Now, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long, you may want to look at this. On the balance, what proportion would you assign to domain knowledge or domain experience, say manufacturing or education or transportation or rush hospitality versus soft skills in a particular industry? What viewing me in hotel as my experience, my hotel technical experience or my technical knowledge of hotels versus my soft skills. So on the balance, what proportion would you guys say technical versus soft skills? And I'll start with Mark, because Mark is probably the most technical person on this panel.
I would say 90% for your soft skills and 10% for your technical skills. And if anyone knew my technical background, I think you would be shocked the fact that I would say that.
I honestly did not think that you were going to go that high.
Oh, no. Listen, I look at it this way. We said at the onset that interpersonal skills are not always measurable because they're also very unique, and also people gravitate to different types of soft skills and how you lead people. So that's unmeasurable. But when we're talking about leadership, I think my video froze. 1 second, guys. So when we're discussing leadership is there to bring people together, have people understand the vision, the plan for the future, where the company needs to go. I always looked at it this way. Tech skills, you can always upgrade at any point in time. Most tech skills is black and white. When people write programming on a protocol, if people write some type of software, there generally is a very cohesive kind of work frame that kind of goes about it. So it is not like human nature. We are fickle at best. We change our mood by the minute. We get inundated by information that can change what we feel inside that perceives something different externally. So there's a lot more moving pieces when it comes to humans in general compared to technology. So in my opinion, if you want to be an effective leader, you want to work on your interpersonal skills. Everything else is a distant second, third, fourth, and fifth, especially when it comes to tech. Because here's the thing, if I know how people feel, what perspective they're going to take, if I can, through talking to them, understand building rapport, how to resolve conflicts with them, what I'm truly learning there is also their capabilities. And when I'm doing that, don't you think I'm going to be able to bring on the best people that I can find for the job? People that are going to be buying into my vision, people that are going to support what we're trying to accomplish. I don't need to know the nuts and the bolts of all the technical details. That's what I bring in, the people that have that passion, that drive to do that. And as Dr. Johnson mentions, if you can instill and build that relationship with them, there's not going to be anything these people are not going to want to do for you. That's called loyalty. But you earn that loyalty by the way that you treat others, by the way you lead them, by the way you govern yourself, how you lead by example. And that's why I say 90% interpersonal skills, 10% technical skills, especially if you're already in a managerial position. If that's something you want to aspire to, guess what? You're going to have to start figuring out how can you unbalance that scale to move it more towards those interpersonal skills compared to your technical skills. And in this case, guess what, everybody? And this is an inside joke. I wish Mike was here for this. But BGP is not the answer when it comes to this.
Oh, all right. Dr. Johnson, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I was a little bit lower than the 90% of what it is. I was at 85%, so we're close.
Well,
and everything.
Nice. We'll
but
take
I think okay, I think what a lot of leaders fail to realize is that too many times all they know about the folks that work for them are the things that they do for the company. I think it's important that you need to know the entire person, not just the skills that they have, what they do at work. You need to get to know them, get to know their families, get to know what their interests are, what they look forward to doing, and so forth. Because, I've been in situations where bosses will come in, the guy will come in and say, hey, look, my son's got a school play at 9:00. I'd like to go to it. You think, no, you can't do that. You got to stay here and do your computer stuff, or you got to do whatever and everything. And that kills drive a lot of times. You may have some very, very good people, capable people. And if you're not a little bit flexible, your organization is not the only thing in the world to them. And you've got to learn that. Now, and I think that's part of the interpersonal skills. Knowing your people, knowing to communicate, knowing how to read people, understanding their different backgrounds. Think of it today, folks. Back when I first started teaching in college and everything, I was teaching in Mississippi. International was like the next county over. Nowadays, what do? I'm on here with GoCloud, Dr. Long and I are on when we're doing training sessions. We're all over the world. I have to have some idea of the different backgrounds, the different cultures of the people that we're talking about. Now, Dr. Long's got that knocked out. Her expertise is international management, international development. My expertise is trying to figure out where I am in the moment. Okay? So leaders have got to expand their horizons. They've got to develop those interpersonal skills and those soft skills so that they can grow and continue to grow. All right? I made a mistake one time by telling my grandfather that, okay, I got the best degree in the world. I'm a PhD. I'm the big dog. I know everything. And he told me I was stupid. He said, the day you quit learning, son's the day they put dirt on your face. Okay? So, and I say that as a joke, but you think about this. You can always learn. You can always be better. You can always develop your skills. As he says, those technical skills, they're there. You know them. But you better develop those interpersonal skills or you will not be as successful as you hope to be.
Right. Anybody else want to chime in before we move on?
They said it. You gotta, how many times I've worked for a lot of different companies, and there were some amazing, almost supernatural technical people with technological prowess, but I couldn't stand being in a room with them. So it's ironic because the very thing that made them very proficient created an arrogance in them where their soft skills were abysmal. And they knew what to do with the stack, with the environment. But when someone asked a question that they felt was very pedestrian and in very low and layman terms, they were offended. They felt like it was beneath them to ask that question. so on and so forth and so on and so forth. So they knew what to do with the stack, but no one wanted to work with them, and the stack suffered because everyone was leaving. Conversely, people may not know the stack so well. They may not understand the networking, but they have an eagerness to learn. They're likable, they're adaptable, they're able to roll with the punches when the project has so much ambiguity that the frustration arises because they don't know how to adapt very well, but they're able to learn and so forth. I like those type of people. So I would definitely say 85 to 90% in favor of those soft skills. And you can teach the tech, but learning how to be adaptable, how to communicate, how to be open and receptive to different cultures that may very well be totally different than your own, and having not just the tolerance, but the interest in working with these people so that they feel the cohesion. You're able to open and expand and create different relationships. If someone, say for instance, there may be a different holiday that you don't understand, let alone appreciate, but you know that person, I built a rapport with them, they have to take the day off. Let's switch, let's understand the role and how I can help you. You've built a friend for life. You built a coworker for life. If you want to leave out of that community into another job, you have someone who says, when I needed him most or her most, they were able to come through for me and so forth. So, you know, technical, you can learn. The other soft skills, I believe that that's a harder life skill that people are not readily able to turn on, off and on, unless they continually build that up. I hope I'm making sense here.
You know, I'll add too. I will say I agree with everything. Like all of the above is the answer, the correct answer on this question. Everybody has made some great points. The only thing I can think I can add to this is that the higher your level of management within an organization, and say you started off on the tech side and you assisted with like customer support or something like that, you really needed the strong technical skill to enter the management ranks. It really addition over to a need for you to have the soft skills, the interpersonal skills. And the higher up you go, that balance is more and more off. So you're going to find that it's kind of a sliding scale as far as that proportion. The higher you go in that organization, the less technical skills people expect you to be able to do, and they won't ask that of you because that is somebody else's job. Be in meetings, they need you to make decisions, they need you to be they need you to do of things. So you're in meetings, you're doing reports, you're having to showcase what you have and what that company can offer to other people. So you are expected at that point to understand the people side of it. You're trying to coordinate things with others. So that's a sliding scale to ask the proportion. You're going to end up needing more and more and more of the people skills and less of the technical skills.
Right. So before I get to some of the stuff in the chat box is gonna derail our topic of conversation. So I'm gonna save it for the end here because I think it's very important, some of the stuff that we get to, but I'm going to save the last 15, 20 minutes of the show for it because honestly, I could dedicate an entire week of content to some of the stuff I'm seeing in the chat box there. So I want to see, I had an ask for Mark and Alonzo earlier today. And I'm gonna call somebody out. And I'm gonna say I got only one of them completed the ask, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna ask them if they might have any questions or anything they'd like to get Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long's input on or insight on or feedback on. If you on the topic of soft skills and the importance of it. To the individual's career. Alonzo,
you're muted, Alonzo.
Your audio got messed up again, Alonzo.
Okay.
There we go. Now we can hear you.
Okay. So, doctors, when in your, let's look at a sample of your students. What would be the sample of them coming in with raw soft skills, and throughout the process of your training, have they improved? And if not, what would they need to be better students so that they can bring those skills into the workforce?
Do you mean in their entire like educational career? Like,
yeah, let's
whole,
consider
like,
that sample size.
What percentage of the students they've interacted with have that raw innate soft skills? And
yeah,
okay, and where does it go from there?
Exactly. Have they evolved, devolved? How have they improved? You know, I know that's a very broad base, but I gotta get a little creative with these two doctors here. They've probably seen it and done everything.
I can give you. You know, our programs are more of the junior, senior level students. We don't see a whole lot of in the business school. We don't see a whole lot of the freshmen and sophomores. We do have interaction with them at times, and we find that they have been, by and large, very sheltered. They have parental oversight that has not allowed them opportunity to really come out of their shell and showcase what they are capable of and really learn how those interactions work and things like that. So on the freshman level, and you really have those, they're just coming out of high school for the most part, and they're just learning what it's like to have that freedom and what it's like to have the capability to make your own connections out there. By sophomore level, they're still having fun. They're still enjoying themselves quite a bit, but they're building their social atmosphere. They're really learning what it's like. How do you make friends? How do you get along with other people? So those are helpful skills. By the time they get to us, they feel confident in who they are in that aspect of it. So if they've been in a sorority or fraternity, they feel a little bit more confident in that. So we actually get them a little bit more advanced in the College of Business and Global Affairs than just freshmen. Most of our courses are junior, senior level courses. From their junior level courses all the way through their senior levels and even into the MBA, we see a lot of growth. But we're also challenging them in the classroom to say, you're going to have to take a lot of responsibility. You're going to have to take the effort. This is all on you. So we're helping develop them, not just with the knowledge base of the subject matter, but we're really working with them on where does the accountability lie and where does the responsibility lie, and how do you properly, send an email to a professor that would be received in the message that you wanted to send and the tone that you wanted to send. Those skills that we're working with. Overall, I'd say that they learn a lot, whether it's in computer science or information systems or management or anything like that. They're going to learn skills. They're going to learn the need that can help fill that. But in the business school, we really do focus a lot on these soft skills and how do you be successful in a work environment and how do you work well with others. So they do have those group projects that they don't like. They have those opportunities to join, student organizations or honors clubs and things like that where we're trying to expose them a little bit. So you asked kind of a range. It's really hard for me to say where they start their proportion, but I would say they're probably about 50% there as far as where they're going to end up being when they come into us, and we push them along and get them there. I will say at the University of Tennessee at Martin, we are big on experiential learning, and that's essentially just making sure the students are engaged in that learning process. So we have opportunities galore, a ton of opportunities. If they want to go and work sporting events, we encourage them to do that, and we give them those opportunities. We have students every year that go and work events like the Super Bowl, for example, and we help them have opportunities to meet the players and interact with them and see what it's like to be in that environment, that high stress environment. But we also have opportunities for them to travel abroad. We have opportunities for them to go and experience local government and even statewide government. those true experiences of what it's like. And so they get their eyes opened a lot through those experiential learning opportunities. And we really try to encourage them to take advantage of those.
I appreciate that. And there was a method to my madness, because compared to what happened when we were growing up, the socialization was far stronger and you're able to strengthen your soft skills versus we're in this a new world where everyone is communicating via social media, virtual reality, and so forth. So that translation of how soft skills are manifested seems to be very different from what, we all grew up in.
I'd like to
see.
I was gonna say I'd like to ask Dr. Johnson to answer the same question, but from a different standpoint, if you don't mind. I mean, you can answer what you were already going to say, but I'd like to hear your thoughts because you've been in this field for quite a while. How would you say that the soft skills have changed, and how would you say that the possession of those soft skills has changed from decades past to now in the students that
to be honest with you, to be honest with you, the students that I had when I started at the university level back in the early 80s, the soft skills were a lot stronger because we didn't have all the tech skills to be able to communicate with their professors and to communicate with other peoples and other organizations and so forth. And then as the technology grew, for example, I didn't have a computer on my desk for years. I didn't even know what a computer was. And some of you that are old may know what a TRS-80 was from Radio Shack. We thought we would died and gone to heaven. 32K of memory, 64K of memory, that type of stuff. So in the beginning, the soft skills were a lot stronger. And then here we come up with all this technology. And I think really what the social media type stuff, I know how important it is and how critical it is. These kids love it. They ask me if I have Facebook pages for my classes, and I laugh at them, because I think they depend on that too much. So my challenge is to get those soft skills back. And as Jamie says, I gotta bring them up and that type of stuff. The way that I approach my classes, what I try to do is, as she says, they have interactions with sororities and fraternities and friends and that type of stuff. And I use those as examples of how those same skills that they've developed to interact in those situations can be used in business. I spend weeks and hours talking about that type of stuff. And I tell them very quickly, I'm not going to read the book to you. You can read the book. You can read the book and get some of the technical, definitions and all that kind of good stuff. And you can ask Jamie when I used to give her tests and exams, it would be application. If you cannot apply the skills and the terminology, if you can't do the applications, I've done nothing. Nobody out there is going to ask you to define leadership. Nobody's going to ask you to define communication. You know what they're going to do? They're going to expect you to do it. And when you come out of my classes, you doggone well better do it, or you're going to come back and do it again. Okay? So, yeah, today I think that people are relying more on those technical skills. They think that's the answer to everything. And I argue that it's not. Matter of fact, without those soft skills, I think you're at a disadvantage. And so in every class that I teach, whether it's my organizational behavior, my principles, and hold on to your seat, Alonzo, I even teach ethics. I know that's scary, but I teach situational ethics. But anyway, the situational finding ethics. But anyway, I focus on those soft skills. You have got to be able to communicate. You have got to be able to interact with people. The technical skills are there. Organizations are going to teach you the technical skills of what they want you to do. So again, I'm going to go back and say, in the old days, soft skills were at the top of the list. Nowadays, no, they go for those technicals, those technology. They think the world revolves around it. I got people can't even do math without a calculator.
Yeah. It's ironic. I put in the in a correspondence between us that social media does not afford strong soft skills.
So social media does not improve social skills. Got it. All right.
There you go. No.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, that's some good insight there. Mark, what's something you've got on the agenda to ask the doctors for their?
I have a few questions, but I wanted to start off with what I wouldn't consider low-hanging fruit, but I think it would start off the train of thought that I was going down with my questions a little bit better. So one of the questions I wanted to get a perspective on is, why do you all think communication skills or these interpersonal skills are so undervalued when we're talking about technical roles? And perhaps what can we do to better highlight the importance of these type of skills or the skill sets in technical roles?
I think that communication, yeah, I think communication is undervalued a lot of times in technical skills, over technical skills. Those in the technical field, they are very focused on what that technology will do, and how can it benefit us, and how can we utilize it to. This is on the technology itself. There's excitement in finding new things and utilizing that. I mean, as AI grows, we want to learn more. We want to see if we can't use it to do this and that. And we forget at that point, as we're learning that excitement of it, we forget that there's other people out there that may not share our excitement, or that might be have interest in it, but they're going to have to be kind of roped into it a little bit, and they're going to have to be brought into it in a way. So a lot of times what we find is that through our educational process, we go through our interests, and our interests are more of the technical. I want to get more involved in that. And then throughout our careers, we transition over to, I want to make more money. I want to have career advancement. I want to have recognition. I want to have a title. And those are where you need these interpersonal skills and technical skills aren't near as important in order to bridge over into meeting those new goals that you have. So I think things like communication gets lost up until the point where you have a specific interest. Oh, now I'm going to play catch up trying to figure out how to do that. And if you spent, 10 years of your career side, it's a hard way to try to make that transition and go, okay, so now I need to learn things like interpersonal skills, and specifically communication, and how to do it in a way that I can sell it as if I'm capable of doing this and I've been doing this forever. I think that's where that divide comes in.
Okay. Let me ask you a follow-up question, and then the same for Dr. Johnson too, just kind of to have it in there. So there is something that tech professionals themselves do to undervalue the importance of these interpersonal or soft skills first. But do you believe, at least from your perspective, that employers are also somewhat at fault in the way that they govern the interviews, performance reviews, other things that should be important in the work environment, that give technical professionals the impression that being able to communicate, to be a good team player, is not as important as, do you know the latest programming language?
Well,
that's for you, Dr. Long, first, and then we'll get to. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, please. No, go ahead, Dr. Johnson, please.
Okay. I think it all comes down to culture. First of all, the leaders in most of the organizations that I've dealt with technical areas, which is not a lot because I try to avoid that as much as I possibly can. But when I deal with technical folks, the culture is, as you say, when I talk to them about their performance appraisals and their annual reviews and that type of stuff, it's all about productivity. It's all about the projects that they've done and so forth. And they can't even communicate with what they've really done. And they just look at it. And I think there's got to be a shift or a change in culture and leadership. I think you need tech companies, or any company for that matter, needs to focus on training, continuous training. I encourage my students all the time. I said, one of the questions you should ask when you're interviewing with an organization is, what training do you provide? What continuous training do you provide for your employees? And I tell you what, about 90% of the folks come back and say, Dr. Johnson, they don't offer any training. I say, go somewhere else. Because if you're not going to be trained, they don't value you. You go, in other words, they're just sticking you in a hole over there, and they don't value you. So that culture has got to change at the top. And so, you know, I understand the importance of technical skills. I really do. But I think most organizations and most leaders, they have no idea the importance of the soft skills. For example, I can even narrow it down for us, give you a real good example. We have what they call the help desk at UT Martin. That's where they have the computer people over there that are going to try to help people like me. Okay. I called them. I said, my computer is doing this, or it won't do that. Folks, they start asking me questions. I have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. They're using words I've never heard. They cannot communicate with me. I mean, one of the things they like to say is, well, we will remote access your computer. I understood the word remote. I understood the word access. And I said, okay, do it. Oh, no, you got to do this. And then they start telling me clicking here and there. I can't do that. They're talking way above me. And then at the end, when they get done, then they look at me and I'll ask them, I say, is there something I did to cause that so I don't do it again? Now, is that a simple question? No. Oh, dear Lord. They cannot talk to me. And then they say, do you want to know what was wrong? No, I do not want to know. Because I don't understand what you're telling me. You have frustrated me. Okay? So when I go over, I ask them, when I walk in, I say, okay, I need somebody that can speak English. And by that, I mean, come down here to my level. Explain to me. And, you know, I know people are smiling and laughing and everything, but that's a breakdown in communication. That's a frustration on the customer. Customer's going to go somewhere else. You know, Alonzo can tell you that. If you're not make the customer happy, you're going out of business. If I can't understand you, I'm going to hang the phone up. I'm going to call somebody else. Okay? So, yes, it's got to start at the top. The culture's got to change. The tech people have got to get out of their mind. I know I pick on the engineers because my dad was one. But they got to get out of the mind that's the most important thing in the entire world. Because you can have the best product, you can't sell it, you can't discuss it, you're not going to be successful. You know, and keep this in mind. I'm going to make everybody mad now. I tell all my people, I don't care what you major in, engineering, computer science, basket weaving, snorkeling, I don't care what you do. Those of you that are majoring in management, guess what? They're going to work for you. Pay them well, go to the beach, have a beer, earn the money. They're working for you. And the point I'm trying to make is, folks, you got to learn those soft skills. You too can learn to be a manager. Some of the most successful people I see in your field come over to our college and minor in business. They get an understanding of management and marketing, take a few courses. I've talked too much. I'll give it back to Jamie or somebody.
Go ahead, please.
Mark,
Dr. Long. I do have a follow-up question that ties into what Dr. Johnson said, but go ahead, please.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I really like your point that organizations, and especially like their annual reviews, really do a disservice to those in the profession, and that's across the board. Annual reviews are just not conducted in a way that really does what it's intended to do. And most likely the reason for that is because the entire point of an annual review seems to be to look in the past. Very little of the annual review is looking towards the future. So when you want to help somebody grow and help them produce, and you sit there and tell them of everything they did wrong last year and how they were okay at this and they could improve on that, and it's not a really good motivation to an annual review situation. They're just like, okay, what's going to come at me now? Productive. It's not helpful. The best annual reviews out there are saying, hey, you did a great job. We actually talked about everything as it happened. So you already know where you are. You've already needed to be improved upon. Why don't we set some goals? What do you want to do? How can we help you get there? And that looking forward and helping people move forward, that's where you could actually benefit from it and say, I want to get in the management ranks. I want to advance myself. I want opportunities. I want training. I want to do things. And then the management team goes, oh, well, this is what we can help them do. We can help them get there. And there can be training then. There can be opportunities. and their goal. It's not the individual going, why am I not getting opportunities? Why is the management not paying attention to me? There's a lack of communication.
So you're telling me everybody probably should be working on some ability that's part of interpersonal skills. Most likely communication, since that seems to be lacking in every department.
Absolutely.
I did have a follow-up question. Dr. Johnson, you touched on it. I'm curious to hear what you have to say also, Dr. Long. And this was this idea, you already touched on this non-technical jargon compared to technical jargon. Could you give me your perspective on how important you think it is to have this ability to effectively take something that's technically complex, be able to break it down into a non-technical manner so that, number one, that you're going to be successful in the projects that you're going to be handling, but also in the relationships that you have with the people that are going to be most likely spread across these different departments. And if you don't mind, Dr. Johnson, I'd like to get Dr. Long's opinion first on this, and then I'll pivot back to you as well, because you can tie in your personal experience as you've already alluded to a little bit. Ladies first, please.
You know, I love, absolutely. I love that in the fields, we have our own language. It's the jargon that we use. I love that it is a way for us to communicate with each other when we don't have to tell the backstory kind of thing. We use a lot of terms shortcuts so we can just move forward, and that works out great. But when you're communicating with people outside of that, you're just going to end up with miscommunication and misunderstanding and just general confusion. So understanding the person you're talking to and the level of communication and their understanding is critical. Absolutely. And when you're trying to unify groups and you're trying to work together to build a product or build whatever you're trying to do, you want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And it might be that you put everybody in the room and you're able to have one meeting, but it could be that you need to have multiple meetings and the same information is giving out, but the way and the delivery of it is different in order to make sure that you on the page, everybody's able to do it. That answers the question fully, but I think that's one way to do it. But the jargon is helpful. It's a great shortcut, but it's not going to work everywhere. It's kind of where that comes down to.
So you're saying you got to find a way to bridge the gap, and that's theoretically that's where you got to be able to take something that perhaps is in a completely foreign language to somebody and translate it so that they can understand it too.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. All right. Dr. Johnson? You already alluded to some parts of it, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think in many organizations, folks are put in silos. Okay. You have the computer people in one little group. You have the marketing people in a group. You have the operations. You have the accountants. You have the finance. You have the customer service. You have all of them they're in silos. They're not working together. So what I've encouraged in the past is that when you're developing a product or trying to answer a customer's, develop something for a customer and everything, there needs to be a team. There needs to be representatives from all the areas. Mm-hmm. So when the computer people or the engineers, start talking about and using their jargon and everything, the marketing people at that point, and the operations people and the finance people and the accounting people, they can ask their questions, get clarifications, because more than likely they're going to have a significant input in selling this concept to the superiors or to the people external to the organization, which is the customers. Matter of fact, I even encourage when it's highly technical or not technical, whatever the product is. Let's say it's a Go Cloud, an architect, project that you're doing for a customer. I suggest you not only take the tech people to talk to these folks, but you take the marketing people and the operations people, and we all meet together so that we have a clear understanding. Because if you just send the tech guy over there to do the talking, he may be talking to a person that's in charge of approving a budget, and he doesn't have an understanding of what your tech person's talking about, and he's going, I don't know. So I would encourage on both sides. Matter of fact, on the customer side and on your side, have representatives from all the different areas involved. Too many times we just want to send the operations people or the engineers and so forth. And folks, there is no breakdown in communication. What you have is no communication. Okay. And you're losing time and money and so forth. So involve others, get out of those silos and so forth. Dr. Long has done she's been in this thing for 3 weeks, and she's done a wonderful job of incorporating the entire department when she's trying to get something done. She brings in management, marketing, all the folks come in together and we have a conversation. And she listens. One thing that I will give her credit on, which I need to should have done a lot better and everything, is she comes in, she asks a question. She does not give her opinion. She listens to everybody, because she learned very quickly that if she gives an opinion, guess what? Everybody says, yeah, boss, that's good, boss, when maybe it's not. So if you bring other people into it and you take that approach, folks, I think you'll get by a lot quicker. You can have the technical skill, and guess what? The tech people are going to learn the interpersonal skills, and the folks that are strong in interpersonal skills will learn how to deal with the tech people. That's just how I see things.
Yeah, and you mentioned also you got frustrated because of the breakdown in communication. So would you say that being able to facilitate that type of communication, that you can build trust between the parties or the groups?
Yes.
But you also build confidence, right? Because how would I sell the product if I don't understand what it is, right?
Right. And if you're going to come to me and sell me something and I don't understand what it is, you can come in, and we see it all on television all the time. I got the answer to everything. The miracle answer to everything. You take this pill, you'll lose weight, you'll lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks. You got all that kind of good stuff. But you're right. You've got to be able to build that trust. You got to be able to build that understanding, and you've got to understand your culture. I tell my students a lot of time is you got to do research. You'll be amazed, and I'm sure you see it in the industry. Nobody does research anymore. They have absolutely no idea about the company or the folks they're talking to. At the very least, if I'm going to talk to you, Mark, I'm going to research you. I'm going to learn all I can about you. I'm going to learn about your background. I'm going to learn about all your experiences. I'm going to know everything I can about you, so that possibly you and I can have a better conversation. I'm not trying to get anything over you or on, that type of stuff. I'm just trying to have an understanding of how we can save time, get to the point, and solve a problem. You got a problem, I got a problem. Let's solve it. That's communication to me. And do your research. Folks don't even do it. When they go to interviews, they don't even know who they're talking to about the company. They know nothing about the company.
What company is this?
That's exactly right. When Chris asked me to start working with GoCloud, I had absolutely no idea what it was, but I got on the homepage and started looking. When I got through, I was pretty much more confused, because that's that tech stuff. Architects to me are people develop buildings or something. I don't know. Okay.
It has to do with solutions, basically.
Pardon me?
Has to do with solutions, apparently.
Well, there you go.
All right. So before I pivot to some of the stuff in the chat box here, I wanted to give Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long the opportunity to poke us a little bit, since we've been poking and prodding you guys and asking you guys questions. I wanted to see if you had any question that you'd like to ask one of us about the topic that we're discussing.
Now I sincerely hope that he did not research me, because otherwise this might turn into a quite lengthy and awkward conversation potentially. But I'm open to it.
I want to know what soft skill you thought early in your career, what soft skill did you recognize you lacked and that you put effort into developing?
I think that should be prefaced by, at least for me, when did you recognize that soft skills were a thing? Before I can recognize.
That's a lot of undercurrent going on.
That I'm lacking in a soft skill, I have to recognize that there is such a thing as soft skills. So
awareness, right?
Yeah,
being aware of it.
I'm gonna say, for me, I want to keep it short and sweet, because I really do want to get to the
knowing is half
get to the stuff here in the chat box. So for me, listening was that skill set. And Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long, I'm sure you're probably not surprised by that one. That's my answer. Listening. That was the soft skill that I recognized that I lacked. And a lot of people always ask, how do you build your soft skills? Well, long story short, you just do the dadgum thing. You just do it. How do you get better at making decisions? You just start making decisions. How do you get better at listening? You just start shutting up and listening. How do you get better at solving problems? You start solving problems. But anyway, so listening. And how did I get better? I just started shutting my mouth. And again, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long, you are not surprised by that. I'm certain. So I'll let Alonzo and Mark answer that. But if we try and keep it a little bit shorter than normal, and then we'll see what Dr. Johnson's question is for us.
Alonzo, please.
Okay, well, I'll go for it. My wife. Okay, first thing, I've known her for decades. And one of the things that I'd learned is that she says, one thing I would like for you to work on, my dear, is active listening skills. So, I will quickly summarize, and this is for every husband, by the way, just listen, two ears, one mouth. So I am oftentimes in my youth, I would be quick to get to the conclusion before I even understand what the story was. Because I thought I could fall on my existing knowledge without having the humility, the patience, and the will to understand that there are some key factors that may change the entire narrative of what I was going to answer initially. So I've learned to shut my mouth, understand, okay, let me get a full scope of what's going on. Okay, and this worked in from my architectural background as well. Listen to what's going on, because what you assume may take you down a totally different path that's going to be wrong for the enterprise architects, wrong for the solution architects or anybody else you're working with, without getting a full scope. So at the end of the day, active listening skills. So Chris said, keep it short. That's active listening skills. And I'm going to do the very same thing.
For me, it was empathy. And not because I was lacking that ability in my life, but it didn't dawn on me that it was important in the workplace as well. Especially when you surround yourself with tech. Tech is, I guess, pun intended, binary, zeros and ones. It is what it is, black and white. But that doesn't change that you're dealing with people. And not everybody is going to have the same perspective, the same logics as you. Just because I think something is common sense, we all can agree common sense is not as common as we would like it to be. So to be able to make sure that I apply empathy, put myself in the shoes of others, how would they feel in this perspective? I think that has done wonders for my stress level, for the stress level that I imparted on other people. And also my relationships were a lot healthier once I made sure to apply it. And it also decreased this idea that you needed to be the smartest person in the room, the most competent person. And it was more about, what can I do to make others better around me? And I think that's where I wish I knew it from the very onset of my tech career. I learned a little bit later on, but if I could tell anyone learn something, I would tell them learn empathy, learn how to apply it in your tech career towards others.
All right. I'm going to make a quick amendment to mine. I think mine would be learning that I don't have to know everything.
That's a good one.
Dr. Johnson, if you had to ask us a question about the topic of today, what would you ask us?
Well, one of the questions that I would like to ask is, with my very limited knowledge of what your organization does, the Go Cloud, I would like to know, where do you see this industry being in 5 years, and what skills are going to be needed to accomplish that goal or to get you there? with the understanding that the current skills may not be good enough. What are you going to have to change? Because I think it's always important that we not look at today, that we don't look at tomorrow, we don't look at next week, that we look at 5, 10, 15 years down the road to be sustainable. And I guess what I'm looking for is, what skills are you going to need? What are you going to need to teach your clients to be successful 5, 10, 15 years down the road?
I like that.
Mark, I'll start with you since you're the most technical.
Yeah. So
did you see Chris run from that? You saw that.
Keeping it short. Keeping it short.
He saw my gears turning.
Keeping it short.
Was Chris on the track team down at Tennessee Martin? Because he ran.
And by the way, for everybody, this is something that I always work on. You will have to work on if you're in tech or you're trying to promote yourself out of the operations side. Learn how not to give every minute detail of your thoughts. I know Chris is also helping me with that as well, but I would say critical thinking. We're going to have systems in place in 5 to 10 years that are going to do the mundane technical aspects of our jobs, regardless if you're in tech or non-tech. That's going to happen. So I think to use the advantage of to think critically about problems and then be able to apply creative solutions to them. I think that's the strength of human beings. And we should continually work on investing time and resources in training that are going to develop our critical thinking ability. That would be my pick.
Agreed. I think being more strategic. Don't, and this alludes to what Dr. Johnson had mentioned, don't just go for the first tree that you run into if you're walking through the forest. Think about what's going on a few kilometers down the line, understand the industry, understanding what the trends are, and being able to be fluid enough to not only incorporate some satellite skill sets that are not exactly down the line of, say, for instance, being a specific architect, but understand some, consider a Venn diagram. There's going to be some overlap there. You might want to consider those areas are going to be influential in how you are or are not going to be successful in your career. So understanding how to move forward, do 2 and 3 steps ahead and understand what those particular decisions are going to entail, ergo opportunity costs. Look at how, just being strategic, but also being fluid enough to be adaptable in your chosen profession and in how you seemingly think about how you're going to attack a problem or an overall industry and create solutions for that. Think about adaptability, think about being fungible, and especially, say, for instance, in Gen AI, they're learning a lot of lessons from what mistakes that we've made in cloud architecture and consuming so much without understanding the cost and where we're going to land in 2 and 3 and 5 years down the line. Will this stuff be relevant? Will we have to repatriate? 37 Signals, they had mentioned that profusely and led a lot of discussions earlier on this year, late last year. So let's, applying it in what we're going to do, let's consider how we're going to be strategic in meeting company organizational need with what type of industry that we're going to be going with, who we're going to be training, and what they're going to be looking for 3 and 5 and 10 years down the line.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet and respond with everything that we've talked about today. That's the question was, well, where do we see this in 5 years, and what do we need? What do we need to train people, and what do people need to make sure they have? Everything that we've talked about today. The tech is always going to change. Dr. Johnson said it earlier. He may not have said it exactly, but he said he made reference to when he started in the 80s that the soft skills were more prevalent or more readily possessed by individuals than they are today. It's the same soft skills. It's the same soft skills. It's the same ability, decision making, the same office politics, the same networking, the same emotional intelligence and empathy, the same following policies and finding loopholes, conflict resolution, communication, listening, developing relationships, time management, goal setting, on and on and on. It's the same as it was 50 years ago. It's the same as it was 100 years ago. It's the same as it will always be. The tech will change. We can always learn the tech. We can always re-up ourselves on the tech. I mean, Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long aren't using the same tech now that they used back then. They're not using the same tech that they used back when I was in college. Like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Canva or Whiteboard or whatever, Blackboard or whatever it's called now is, if it's still that, it's probably not the same version of that. It's probably changed since then. And the tools that they have available to them are different. So even in their field, it looks different, but the skill sets are still the same. You know, Publish or Perish is huge these days. Was Publish or Perish a huge thing in 1983, Dr. Johnson?
Yes.
It was. It's still
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And
It's still there.
But that's the ability to write and communicate and showcase your skill sets. You know, that's right there. That didn't change, but other things have changed. So, you know, that's my 2 cents on this. You know, I have no idea what the tech will look like, but the skill sets are still going to be necessary. Alonzo, I know you've got a hard stop. I'm going to let you go. You're more than welcome to disappear. Dr. Johnson, Dr. Long, I'm not sure if you've got a hard stop or not. If you have to leave, you can. I just want to address one thing in the chat box here before we wrap it up. So everybody tell Alonzo goodbye. And Dr. Johnson, Dr. Long, are you guys leaving, or can you stick around for a few minutes?
I can stay for a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry I have to leave, but Drs. Long, Dr. Johnson, you know it's always a pleasure to see your faces and speak with you, and I hope we get a chance. I get a chance to speak with you real soon.
Well, thank you, Alonzo.
Take care, Alonzo.
Talk to you later. So the topic that I wanted to talk about was a continuation of that moving on topic that came up earlier in the questions about. So the chat, I don't know if any of you were watching the chat box, but there was a period where people were commenting about basically what happens if I'm stuck. I've been here 7 years. I've been here 4 years. Nothing's happening. Nothing's moving. Things aren't happening. So I wanted to, or in a worst case scenario, things are happening, but they're moving in a direction that you're not liking. Maybe your role is being turned into something that's completely different than your skill set and what you desire to do and what you've done for the past 4 years. So I wanted to talk to that because I just saw there was a good conversation about it in the chat box. From my personal experience, I'll talk about it. You know, there was and the conversation got as far as somebody, I think they said that they turned in a resignation and the company said, we'll train you. We'll do blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Give you this, give you that. Well, okay. All right. So from my personal experience, and Dr. Johnson's already shaking his head. Exactly. From my personal experience, we need to know our worth. We need to know our value. And you need to be ready to move on. And you need to be okay with taking a chance on something else. Now, I'm not suggesting you just go out there and jump off a cliff if you've never base jumped before, or, you know, do bungee jumping without the bungee cord and the safety precautions and helmet and all that stuff. No, I'm not suggesting that. But I am suggesting, you know, from my personal experience, I was in a position where I had been with an organization for almost a decade, and it wasn't working. Finally, at some point, and it wasn't working for a couple of years, and so at that point, I had to become comfortable with that. All right, we're going to do something else. And I saw the comment about what they offered you when you resign. 90% of the time, if they've not offered you anything before you resign, they will offer it to you when you resign. And then 90% of the time, it's not going to lead to anything if you take it. So when I resigned, I literally had the kitchen sink thrown at me. The company offered to change the entire hierarchy of the company to pacify and rescind my resignation. But the question is, if they're going to do that, why didn't they already?
Exactly.
So you have to become okay with your value and your worth, and taking your value and taking your worth somewhere where it's recognized. Now, I'm not saying that wherever you may be or wherever, where I left, that it wasn't a good place or it wasn't a respectable company or anything like that, but my value wasn't recognized. Your value may not be recognized as it would be elsewhere. Again, that hierarchy, that pyramid gets smaller and smaller the higher up you go. So maybe in some instances, it's not that it's not valued. Maybe it's that there's not the opportunity to value it at your current organization. Maybe they just don't have the opportunity to recognize that value with a promotion or additional benefits and additional responsibilities. That's perfectly okay. Guess what? There's other opportunities. Take advantage of them. Become okay with that. Do not feel like because you've been somewhere for X amount of time that there's anything that means anything, that locks you into anything. You're the only person that you're committed to is yourself and your employer. And sometimes that relationship with the employer comes to an end. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. You just have to be prepared for it. And by being prepared for it, you can put yourself and put your family in a better position. So it's not always going to be easy, but if you're prepared for it and you're okay with the situation, then it will make it easier. But I wanted to bring that up because I just saw that took a good bit of the chat box there for a little while. So I just wanted to bring that up. I want to see if Dr. Johnson, Dr. Long, Mark, if you guys might have anything to say about that.
I'll add to
ladies first.
Okay. I would add to what Chris said. I think you need to know your value. I agree with that. But a sense of appreciation from an organization, from the people you work with. In school, you get grades on a regular. It tells you what you're doing, tells you if you're appreciated or not. Then we get in the real world and we don't get a whole lot of that. And if you don't feel like you're being appreciated, if you don't feel like your input's being as wanted, it's demoralizing. It's demotivating. And those aspects of work are not something that is going to change over time. They can give you more money, but that doesn't mean they're going to appreciate you anymore. Doesn't mean they're going to treat you any differently. So there's something to be said about putting yourself out there. You can throw your resume out there. You can go on interviews. Ultimately, it's your decision whether or not you decide to move on to a new company or not. A lot of people don't take that first step. They don't even look to see what's available out there. Take a look, see what's out there, see what kind of grabs your interest and goes, maybe that's something I should look at. Give them your resume. Make your friends in the community and the industry and find out what they might know. And especially if you know somebody that's willing to, put in a good word for you or something like that, they won't put their name on you unless they believe in you. And they would not recommend you work for a company that they don't believe in themselves. So it's a way to get a good opportunity and kind of feel like you're going to move up in the world, whether it's a new position at a higher level, or if it's just, you can make a lateral move and be happier and make it feels like it's a raise at that point, just because you're getting that treatment that you really deserve to have. But that feeling of appreciation and you wanting to go to work every day, it adds to your life. It doesn't subtract. At any point in time, if you're working for an organization and you're not happy, you're disgruntled, or you're just frustrated, or you're just not wanting to go every day into work, you're take personal life on that one. So don't compromise your happiness if you can. I know a lot of the scary parts is, what if I have to move? What if I have to uproot my entire life? And the answer to that is you may or you may not. If you don't put yourself out there, if you don't try, you're not going anywhere and your situation's not changing. If you will at least put yourself out there and see what's out there, then you can start imagining, okay, what if you had to move? Well, what would it look like? Start doing some research, find out what housing prices are like, find out what, that local community is like, whether or not you like the school system, whatever it is, it'll pique your interest if it's something that is meant to be. And I would say, take advantage of it if it works out.
Dr. Johnson?
I have a philosophy that I have shared with most of my students and many of the folks that I've worked with or that have worked for me. And it's this: you're not, you need to be prepared, or you need to do what it takes to be prepared for the job that you want or that may be coming down the road, not necessarily the job that you currently have. And by that I mean, keep your resume up to date. I know folks who they don't even touch a resume for 5 years. They can't remember everything. Come on, folks. It's not that difficult to, make notes and everything, especially you tech folks. You got all these little things here. So anyway, but keep your resume up to date. I believe in environmental scanning. And by that, I mean, I'm constantly looking at what's out there. Okay. What's going on in my industry, and heck, what might be going on in other industries in which your skills can be applied. You don't have to stay in the same industry. Continuously look, stay up to date, read, get off of Facebook for a while, to get off of Instagram or dog book or whatever it is, read the news, get in there and get out there and find out what's going on. Stay current in your field, because more than likely you're going to come up at some point in your career. It's time to move on. I was one of the last few my age folks where you stayed with an employer for a long time. Okay. I stayed with mine for over 30 years. And then I made the move to UT Martin and foolishly took the chair job again. Then I finally got smart and gave that up. But it's not always about the money. Okay, folks, it's about happiness, life and so forth. So, stay current. Keep your eyes open, scan that environment, talk to people, and one day you may have to make that move and you'll be ready to make that move. People ask Jamie, they ask us all the time, do I need an MBA? Well, the MBA, I'm going to be honest with you, back in the old days, it really separated you from everybody else in the world. Now it gives you a leg up. That's pretty much what it's going to do. But I will say this. The more training you can do, the more education you can get, it will lead to you making more contacts. It will expand your network. Okay. And, like I say, stay in touch with your folks out there. Be ready to move. And Chris made a very good point. The moment that I tell somebody I'm leaving an organization and they say, we'll give you 15% more, no, you will not. You should have given me that 15% more. If I'm worth it, you should have taken care of me. You can now, I'm taking my skills somewhere else. But on the other side of that, folks, always remember this. And you're going to run in some, business people that study business get a bad case of the stupids. Okay? I'm going to tell you this right now. You get a bad case of the stupids, especially when it comes to hiring individuals. I firmly believe you hire the best. If it takes more money, you get the money, you hire the best. I tell folks all the time, if it takes an extra $30,000 to hire the best, how long will it take that person to make you that 30,000 plus? It won't take long at all. Spend the money. Don't get a bad case of the stupids and say something like, "Well, let's get them as cheap as we can." You know, buy the best people, get the best people, train your best people, continue to train them, and always offer to help them. You know, tell them. I've even made recommendations. I had people call me before as a chair, and they said, "We're looking for, a professor in this area and everything," and I would go to them. Some of my folks would say, "You need to look at this. This is an opportunity for you. I can get another person and train another person, but this is something you may want to do." Folks, you will become valuable in the industry. People will reach out to you. Okay. Okay, Chris, I hope that's what you're looking for.
Mark, you got anything to add before we wrap it up?
Yes, a question that everyone should ask themselves. And that is, who is ultimately responsible for managing your career? If you can answer that question, then the buck stops with you. Then nobody's holding you back. Nobody's restricting you. You can change your mindset then and take charge of a career. Upskill. As Dr. Long and Dr. Johnson mentioned, there's things that you can do. If you're in tech, guess what? Spread out. Do something non-technical. Learn some of those skills. Build yourself out as a complete package. And don't let anyone hold you back. Because if you're not going to be managing your career, nobody else will be. You'll be left in the dust. Remember, this is a business. And in a business, you need to make sure that you can do what's best for you, for your family, and hopefully also for the entity that you work with. But in reality, the entity is not going to align with what's in your best interest 9 out of 10 times. So you need to make sure that you do what is necessary for you to stay afloat and get ahead. And that's why you need to take responsibility. I know that it sucks. Many people don't want to do this, but you will need to take responsibility of your career because nobody will do it for you.
All right. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank Dr. Johnson and Dr. Long for joining us. Again, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Long, congratulations on now being Dr. Johnson's boss and getting that promotion to the chair of the department.
I wish we had those virtual, bottle poppers of champagne and stuff like that. But where's AI when you need it?
There you go.
Dr. Johnson, good luck with the payback that is definitely in store.
Thank you.
So, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us. You've all made it a great conversation, and can't wait to see you all on the next one. Have a great afternoon. Bye, everybody.